Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. Everywhere there is life, but you must face death. Honor it. Do not fear it. Hey there, my name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. Special thanks, as always, to our friends at Lucasfilm and Disney Plus Canada for giving us the opportunity to watch this series early for review. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric, and all things like Star Wars, it feels like, at this point. Now, joining me for this exploration of the light side and the dark, we got Megan and Darcy, my two trusted Jedi. I feel like, now I'm trying to think here, Megan, would you be the light side, and Darcy, you think you'd go to the dank dark side? Is that what would happen?
Well, yeah.
I like to think myself more of the gray side, that middle in-between area.
That makes sense.
That's fair. You're more Ahsoka. I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that.
How are you two doing in this beautiful galaxy of ours?
Good. I'm enjoying the fall weather right now. I'm a person who loves the cold. So I last night got all cozied up in a blanket with a cup of tea, and I watched these episodes and was living my best life.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And there's an episode in this that it is fall, and it's probably one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in Star Wars animation. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Before we get into this review, I thought we might take a moment to discuss our experience, and I think we can collectively say our love for the Dave Filoni animated side of Star Wars. Anyone who's tuned into our Bad Batch episodes, our Watch Club episodes for Bad Batch, will know how we feel about animated Star Wars. But I'd love to know, Megan, why don't you kick us off? What has your experience been with the animated side of Star Wars?
Well, it's so funny. You would think that I would be extremely well versed in this, which I feel like I am now, but I feel like I should be a long-standing Clone Wars fan, but I only just started watching it, what was it, Nate, like a year and a half ago? Maybe 2 years?
Roughly after season 7 came out,
yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
So I just got into it, and Nate was like, you got to watch this. It's Star Wars, but it's animated, and it goes into like the depths of the Clone Wars. And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. First season was a little rough to get through just because of the animation standpoint. You know, I didn't realize it was like a 2007 show. So, you know, it was rough to start watching, but then you fall in love with the characters and you learn more about Anakin, and I love him as a master. I love Ahsoka as his Padawan. She is my favorite Star Wars character, obviously. And then I also had a hard time getting into Rebels. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I love animation, but there's something about that main character.
You don't like Ezra. You're not an Ezra stan.
So funny.
He just annoys me a little bit, but I think that's part of it. I know a lot of people who were super annoyed by Ahsoka when she was, you know, in the first couple seasons.
Absolutely.
Right here. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
But I think I know a lot more about Star Wars because of the animated shows. And I think the people who love the films, if you're massive Star Wars fans, get through the animated show because it's worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we'll be bringing that up quite a bit during this review. Darcy, what was your experience like with Star Wars animation? Were you watching in 2007 when it first premiered?
I was checking it out, but like I mentioned earlier, I was not the biggest fan of Ahsoka, so I tended to stay away from it. I found her too similar to the whiny Anakin we all got in episode 2, so I was just like, I don't need another one of those. I want different, please, thank you. I need a different Jedi. But once I started tuning in, like I started watching a lot more hardcore, like around season 4, I think, when they started telling more interesting stories, and Ahsoka got that really, like, her whole disillusionment with the Jedi system is incredible. So that's where I really fell in love with the animated series. And personally, I loved Ezra from minute one of Rebels. when I was at Comic-Con when they announced Rebels was going to be a show they were doing, and I remember seeing the cast come out on stage and just being like, yes, more Star Wars stories, and this cast is incredible. I can't wait to see the story they tell, and I love that one basically since minute one. So huge fan of the animated universe.
And I think what's so special about that, and I think even a little bit with this series, is just the fact that we get to stray away from the Skywalkers. I mean, we're still, obviously, that story is so integral, especially to Clone Wars. But to have these characters, to have a series that's centered around two characters that aren't last name Skywalker is fantastic. And I'm so stoked to get into this. I joined the Clone Wars parade, I guess, like, I want to say probably when season 5 probably season 5, I think, was when I jumped on, and I just was like, wow, this is special. This really hit for me. And I think what really did it for me was just the fact that, you know, you had writers from Avatar: The Last Airbender working on this, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, you've got me in then. And so, yeah, man, I think you're absolutely right. I think if you are, you know, listening to this and you haven't watched the Clone Wars yet, I definitely think you need to in order to watch this series, and we'll elaborate on that a little bit more. But let's get to the synopsis for this series. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi is an anthology of 6 all-new animated shorts produced by Lucasfilm Animation and created by the GOAT himself, Dave Filoni. I added the GOAT himself. That's not actually in the official description.
It should be.
It should be, though. Who also created, as we mentioned, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and The Bad Batch. This is based on characters created by George Lucas, and the series is set during the prequel era and spotlights important moments in the lives of fan-favorite characters Ahsoka Tano and Jedi-turned-Sith Lord Count Dooku as they embark on respective paths towards heroism and villainy. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi features the voices of Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka Tano, Corey Burton as Count Dooku, Janina Gavankar, shout out to Battlefront 2, as Ahsoka's mother, Pav T, Michael Richardson, Liam Neeson's son, as young Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson himself as Qui-Gon Jinn, T.C. Carson as Mace Windu, Ian McDiarmid as Darth Sidious, Phil Lamar as Bail Organa, Clancy Brown as the Inquisitor, Matt Lanter as Anakin Skywalker back again, and James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. All 6 episodes are out now on Disney+. Let's get into this. Let's get into what worked and what didn't. And honestly, I'm going to have a really tough time with anything that didn't, because holy crap, this was excellent. Let's just dive right in. I want to just start off and just say, like, you know, Darcy, you and I were at Star Wars Celebration, and Dave Filoni mentioned how he wrote these, I think, while he was, like, on a flight or, like, during lockdown.
Yeah, traveling between, like on-set locations for Mandalorian and his home. He said he was doing, he had these stories jumbling around his head and just put pen to paper as a way to pass time, and we got these 6 stories from it. So, really cool.
Nuts. These are stories that he's said that he's wanted to tell while he was working on the Clone Wars, but they just never found a moment to sort of put them in. And I love, let's just talk about the fact that they're short stories. They are shorts. These are 6 short episodes, I think around roughly 10 to 14 minutes each. I just love how swift and precise they are in their messaging. And I think by condensing these episodes down, even more so than something like with the Clone Wars, which was, you know, around like a 22-minute episode, it just does so much to, like, again, just focus in on the message that they're trying to say. What did you guys think of the short format?
I loved it. I thought it was a great way to tell these animated stories with a little bit of time, and you can fit all that you need in that, especially with these, like, blips of stories about characters we already know about. However, I think it's really cool that we've introduced Dooku's, like, evolution in this.
Yeah.
And I would personally like to know more about him, because I don't know a lot about Dooku. So seeing how many different Padawans he had, or I guess, what do you call them, apprentices, like different people that he trained who all rose to the occasion and, like, outshone him in the Jedi world. I thought that was really interesting and such a cool story arc for him. I also really love the comparison of Ahsoka and Dooku, whether that was on purpose or not, but those two going through the Jedi from light to dark to whatever you get to, they're really, really comparable, which you would never think they would be. But I thought that was really interesting.
So good.
Yeah, as a fan of again, I've read all the books and stuff like that. So there's the Ahsoka novel and there's Dooku Jedi Lost, which kind of explore a lot of the same timeline that these shorts go through with their, disillusionment with the Jedi, like I mentioned earlier, and how they eventually forsake that and turn to something else. So as a fan of that, it was really cool to see other aspects. It disappointed me because there are these stories that already exist. They didn't get to tell some of the more impactful moments that I'm familiar with. So that was, to me, that's a bit of a downside in this short format, is that they focused on very specific moments where the lead up to those moments to me are just as interesting as what we got in these stories.
And so just to clarify, you're saying those lead ups to these moments are in those books?
A lot of times they're maybe not the exact moment, but it's again during the same timeline. So you're getting Dooku's thought process behind why he's losing faith in the Jedi and why he's turning more to his anger. And then similar with Ahsoka, it's what is she going to do now that she is no longer a Jedi? Where is she going to go now that the Jedi Order has fallen and all that stuff? So again, those books explore the same timelines and do it much more thoroughly, so you can get some of those questions answered that maybe Meg has after seeing Dooku's brief little windows in this story.
Well, I think that leaves some room, for another season of the show, I think, if they wanted to. I also think, too, these are on Disney Plus, but if this was a different time, if this was back in the day before Disney Plus, these would be on YouTube, and totally. I could almost see at the end of the YouTube video, like the little pop up coming up, like, if you enjoyed this, check out the audiobook for Dooku Lost or whatever. Right? So like I could totally see that being the case, and I think that is intentional. I think Dave Filoni is intentionally being very cautious of sort of what he pulls and what he doesn't from those other creators. I just love, though, that like we get to connect with parts of the Star Wars universe that we've never fully connected with before. And I do like the exploration of some of these things, like getting to see Dooku Breaking Bad, but also Ahsoka's homeworld and seeing her culture and seeing how her people interact with nature and just how that carries through to her disposition as a character was so phenomenal. And Darcy, at the panel that we attended, Dave Filoni mentioned to us that this series would go dark, and he was not lying. These shorts, I think they're such a wonderful, mature take on the subject matter that's brought up in Clone Wars and brought up in the prequel series, and that maturity, I think, is recognized, and it's so appreciated, especially after watching something like Star Wars Andor. And we've talked about how, it was one of those things where we're getting back into Star Wars animation, and I was thinking in my head before I clicked play, I'm like, how is this going to work for me after something like Andor? How am I going to get back to this? And it doesn't miss a beat. I think you can tell how much reverence Dave holds for these characters in this world, and that bleeds through every sentence or every line of dialogue of this series, and you can feel it when you're watching these shorts. There was never a short that ended where I sort of felt like that was unnecessary or we didn't need to see that. All 6 of them were just so perfectly told and felt just as mature as anything we've seen from Andor, and I loved it.
I also love, I didn't get this until the end of all 6 episodes, and then I was like, of course. I love that Dave Filoni paid tribute also to the era in which these shows started and got to. So, like, the very first episode with Ahsoka, I was like, the animation kind of took a back seat here. Like, it seems really delayed, or like visually, their movements aren't as clean as I remember them being in like the Bad Batch or the season 7 of Clone Wars. I was like, oh, that whatever. Like I can see past it because I love Ahsoka so much and I love these series, but I was like, oh, that's too bad. And then as the show goes on, I was like, well, wait a minute. It's getting better. Like the animation quality is getting better. And then you get to see episode 5 that has this insane moment, and also you can visually see the difference from the first part to the end part. And I was like, yo, Dave Filoni is playing so hard into the animation of this that he's showing us like season 1 Clone Wars and also season 7 Clone Wars animation. It's unbelievable. Like I'm getting chills talking about it. It was so cool.
It's cool to see that, again, the visual storytelling is just as important as the narrative to them. And I think you're absolutely right, Megan. You can literally take these moments and plot them into their points in canon in these series.
Like
and
Chills.
it would just feel the same. It's so cool. And yeah, they're like, shout out to the animation teams and the people that work on this, because obviously we know, especially through the pandemic, like that is not an easy thing to do. And even though these are shorts, like it's no small feat, especially for how beautiful some of these episodes are. There, again, without spoiling anything, but there's a moment where two characters, I won't even say who they are, but they walk into a forest and there's purple leaves on the ground, and I was just like, holy crap, Star Wars animation just looks so good these days. And I think ever since season 7 of the Clone Wars, and especially with Bad Batch, this has gotten me so stoked for more of it, for more Bad Batch.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, I the visuals are just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I can, count on Star Wars animation to do, is to use light and darkness properly, because throughout these 6 episodes, the light is so natural feeling, and the shadows that they generate and everything revolving around that stuff feels like they've really created a world just using these animation cues to, again, the light and shadows are, I can't get over that. That was the thing I came out of this series being like, damn, they did that well. Like there's one moment where Jedis light up their lightsaber in a cloud of smoke, and that just,
oh my gosh,
again, bringing back to that original Clone Wars era stuff when they used that, but at the same time elevating it to the next level. And it's like, that was incredible.
And also, you're talking about the animators going through COVID and having to do stuff like that during a pandemic and everything. It's also insanely difficult to degen your quality of animation. That's why I'm getting chills talking about it. Like, when you know how to make it good, it's hard to make it not as crisp and clean. Like, that also, it just deserves a massive round of applause. Amazing.
Well, because not even just in the look of the overall show, but even things like, again, how you mentioned how they move, but I think more importantly, their facial animations. I think we noticed over the course of Clone Wars how much that changed and how important that was, especially to bring out emotions in these digital puppets, right?
Totally. And the cinematic quality of those character movements.
The way it's shot.
Like, you go from the very first episode of Clone Wars where Yoda is sort of like hopping around with those 3 clones, and then you get to season 7 of Clone Wars with Maul and Ahsoka having their combat moment on Mandalore. It's like unbelievable, the difference, and they achieved that in this show. It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Now, of course, the visuals are amazing. I got to talk about what we heard, though. Kevin Kiner did the music for this series. Holy crap. I was so blown away by these moments with these songs. They especially everything on the Ahsoka side was just, there were moments of uplift and moments of like true power. And then the moments with Dooku are so bleak and sad, but also at the same time like dark, and they just fit the narrative so well. I was just blown away by it. I really hope that we get the music on like Apple Music or whatever. Like, I want to download it right now and listen back to it, because it really, honestly, it's just crazy how much these shorts were able to do with the time that they were given. And I think a lot of that has to do, obviously, with the music. I also want to just shout out. It's just so nice to hear Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka again, right? Like, I was just so happy to hear her voice again. And then even like Matt Lanter as Anakin and James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan, like, just for the brief moments that we do get with them. It's crazy to think that we can have nostalgia for characters that we realistically heard only 2 years ago, or for some of us even a lesser amount of time. But it still felt like when I hear them talk, I'm like, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
There's and again, that's no shade to all the other people that portray them, especially the original actors, or with Ahsoka. Like, it is one of those things where that's awesome. There's going to be different versions of these characters. That's fine. But it was just, it felt like coming home. It felt really nice, especially for a Clone Wars fan.
Totally. It doesn't downplay at all the other people's like portrayal of those characters. It just holds a different place in your mind and in your heart for them. Like, Rosario Dawson will hold a special place in my heart for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But also Ashley Eckstein is a different Ahsoka, and I love them both immensely, and they do such a good job portraying her in those different stages of her life.
Absolutely. And speaking of different stages, like, yes, these are shorts. There are a couple episodes, I think there's 1 or 2, where we get to jump through time. in the episode. And it's so cool how they tell you. All I'm going to say is Clone War armor or Clone Trooper armor, and you just see it change through those moments. They don't even recognize any of it. You just sort of see those changes, and you're like, oh, that's where they are in the timeline.
Yep.
Now that's where they are in the timeline. It's just so cool. I was like, that's so just badass. The only other thing I wanted to quickly mention before we maybe mention anything that we didn't quite work for us. I know Darcy already kind of mentioned a little bit that you wanted a little more from these moments, but getting to see a young Qui-Gon Jinn, I thought was so cool. His relationship with Count Dooku was so intriguing and so interesting, and just the way that he sort of again you sense that wisdom in him, even though he was so young. But she's in the trailer. I'm going to talk about her. It's not a spoiler. Freaking Yaddle. We get way more Yaddle than I ever expected, and she's so incredible. I was so like, it was like my heart was beating just from seeing and hearing Yaddle. I was just blown away. I was so happy to see it. And I think they did such a good job with that character and giving more to that character. It was just, I'm in love. I'm in love with you.
Me too.
Right? Do we have anything else we want to bring up before we get into what might have not fully worked for us, or is there anything that didn't fully work for you guys?
Personally, I was, again, having read all the other stories and am familiar with these characters' backstories, it was a bit disappointing with what parts of these stories they focused on, in my opinion. Because, again, the lead up to some of these moments are much or just as interesting, if not more interesting to me than what we got in these shorts. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we're not getting these in-depth character dives. We're just getting quick little windows into their why they're doing what they're doing. And without the knowledge of the show or the books to guide you, you could be very lost in this series, because it is very much focused on very particular moments in these characters' lives.
And I think that was my only. It's so tough for me to call this a criticism, because I don't fully think that it is, because I think this show in its marketing and what it's trying to do and who it's aimed towards, really it's kind of saying, hey, you haven't watched the Clone Wars, you're not going to be prepared for this, you might not enjoy it. I just think that, especially, I think maybe 50%, I think the Ahsoka stuff portion of the series, I think the Count Dooku episodes you might be able to actually watch and be fine if you've watched the movies.
Yeah, totally.
But I think for the Ahsoka stuff, for 50% of this series, it is strictly for fans who've enjoyed the Clone Wars animated show, and I think there's revelations and feelings that won't be felt if you don't have that context. And I think it's a disservice to the series itself if you were to watch this and not get that from the show. So I do wonder, I guess, again, I don't think anyone who hasn't watched the Clone Wars would click on this first, but it is one of those things that just kind of, it makes me worried, because I don't want Star Wars fans to start their journey with Ahsoka here. Yeah. I really want them, right? I don't want, because it's almost, in a way, it is a big spoiler for them.
Yeah.
And again, it leaves out so much context. But again, just watch the Clone Wars already. Just do it. Okay? It's only going to make the prequels better for you. It's only going to make Star Wars in general better for you. Just like this series does with Dave Filoni at the helm. I think with him at the helm going forward with Star Wars, the Clone Wars and I would even say to an extent Rebels and Bad Batch are just as important as the movies at this point, especially given the fact that Dave is going to be carrying Star Wars forward.
Oh, yeah.
So again, I don't think that's necessarily a criticism as much as it is just a thing to say, just watch Clone Wars, please.
Yeah, it's a way to force people to watch the animated shows, because you have to now.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
And to me, that's just that's where I'm kind of concerned, because like Nate was saying, that he doesn't want this to be people's first experience with it. But a lot of people will see a 6-episode series with running 10 to 15 minutes per episode is a lot more palatable to dive into than one of these longer form things. And again, while it is cool seeing a lot of the moments, again, Ahsoka's were the ones where I felt this more than Dooku, where it was the stuff that we already know or have already seen that was more interesting, and we didn't necessarily need these stories, in my opinion. I kind of felt like that after the Ahsoka ones, whereas the Dooku ones were showing us windows that we never got in Dooku Lost or Jedi Lost or the Clone Wars or anything like that. So we were getting a bit more. Still, I feel like the storytelling wasn't very concise over the arcs of each of these characters. That was my big issue, is like, yes, I understand where these fit in their journey, but on their own, they don't tell the story of why they're going down this route. And that was my biggest problem, was that they don't address the why behind these choices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My biggest problem was that it made me cry a lot. The last two episodes, you guys.
Oh my gosh. So good. I think Darcy, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think for me, I think for anyone who is a major Clone Wars fan, though, I think that's exactly why it works. I think, again, getting this such a focused, pinpoint moment is just lovely. And I think again, the whole aspect with Star Wars, and we see this all the time with Star Wars, and I do think it is a little bit of a criticism towards Star Wars, but it also helps with the storytelling, is that they do purposely leave out things like some of the why. They do purposely leave out some of these moments. Why? Because then they can make more shorts like this. They can make more series. They can make more books and comic books. And I think that's purposeful in both a good way and a detriment at the same time. So I totally hear that. Let's get to our overall thoughts and final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 lost stories of the Force. Megan, I'll get you kick us off.
Okay, so like I was saying, the evolution of the animation throughout these episodes was mind-blowing. I didn't notice it until it was over, and I completely respect and admire that part of it. It was two characters that I never thought you could compare, who actually are incredibly comparable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I loved that it was timeline order and not like, here's Ahsoka and then here's Dooku.
Which is what I thought it would be, yeah.
Yeah, it went from like Baby Ahsoka to then a Dooku story, and you went through those 3 episodes, and I was like, oh, well what about Ahsoka? And then it starts with her again, and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, because you're going in line with the timeline. I love Ahsoka to the ends of the earth, so I'll hear anything, even if it's repeated from something we've already seen. I'm happy to see it again. It made me feel so many things. Again, episode 5 and 6, my hands were over my mouth the whole time with my mouth agape, and I was crying. It was beautiful. I want to learn more about Dooku now, and I never thought I'd say that. So I will be giving this 5 out of 5 lost stories of the Force.
Okay. Darcy, how about yourself?
Like I said, I really enjoyed these episodes. They're really cool snapshots into these characters that we already know, their lives and stuff like that. But it wasn't what I was expecting after sitting through that panel and getting that first look. I was expecting a lot more of a look into the why. Again, the why was what I was really looking for, especially with Dooku, because the parts that we saw in this series aren't really explored in the book, and I feel like that is a very crucial time in his life about why he did what he did. And so it was very disappointing that they did not spend a lot of time on that. Overall, though, the visuals are incredible. The storytelling is great for the story they are telling. And as a fan of Star Wars, I'm picking up on all those little things they're putting down. So I did enjoy that. But it was the fact that I was wanting for so much more, knowing the windows of lore that they were exploring, that had me a bit disappointed. So I'll be giving this one 3.5 out of 5 lost stories of the Force. To me, the storytelling, while it was good, it wasn't necessary. There are much more important parts of these characters' lives that could have been explored.
Well, Darcy, you're kicked out of Bad Batch season 2 watch. I'm so sorry to tell you.
It's not a bad score. I didn't appreciate as much as Andor or other Star Wars stories we've gotten recently. I was disappointed. I'm sorry.
That's fair. You know what I think, and that's the big thing with Star Wars, is we love it so much that it's we have to be tough on it. We have to be critical on it, and I totally hear that. Again, my only thing with that, I agree with you. I just think that, give us a season 2. Give me a season 2. Explore those things. Explore those whys.
If they're going to be a season 2, I feel like we'll be exploring other Jedi.
That's
like
what I was going to say.
Kit Fisto. Yeah. So many characters we saw in the Clone Wars that are awesome, but we don't know much about them. So give me more of those things. Whereas again, these characters, I know more of their story, having read the books and stuff like that, and know what is being omitted, and that's where it leaves me wanting.
Okay, cool. I hear that. I think for me though, overall, we watched the first episode back in May, Darcy, like you were saying, and I after that I was like, oh, we're in for a treat. And then the trailer came out, and I was like, oh, we're in for a treat. And even still, this blew me away. I literally watched them like less than an hour ago, and I've already wanted to rewatch all 6 of them immediately after, and I cannot wait to see them. With our screeners, we kind of get like a low quality version with our emails across the screen, nice and big. Thank you, Disney. But I can't wait to see them in full 4K quality. I think this is fan service in the best possible sense. We talk about fan service a lot on this podcast, and I think this is not just Easter eggs. It's these incredible small moments that I think add so much growth to 2 characters that represent so well the growth of this universe in 2 opposing ways. And again, you get to see those similarities between them, like you said, Megan. Like something I thought we'd never really. If you say Ahsoka, my first thought's not Count Dooku.
Exactly.
And so it's so cool to see that and to see how Dave was able to bring these characters together in that way. These 6 shorts, they show and say so much in just 14 minutes. And they're so focused, and I want more. I want a second season. And yeah, if it's the same characters, awesome. I can't wait to explore more. If it's 2 entirely different characters, I cannot wait to explore more in this way. I think the way that it's a short allows for the pacing to be so crisp and on point. The music was fantastic. The voice cast is fantastic. And the performances are just so great. It's lovely to hear and feel nostalgic for these iterations of these characters that hold such a special place in so many people's hearts. This series, just like everything Dave Filoni has brought to Star Wars, adds so much to the stories that George Lucas created and helped to emphasize these characters beyond the Skywalker saga. And I think that's the biggest sort of revelation that, not only I think Rebels and Bad Batch will give you, but even some of those moments within Clone Wars, and especially with this short series. Darcy, you said it best on our Cars on the Road review, but something about Disney Plus, the Disney Plus platform and shorts, like, it's just working. Okay, if Disney Plus was coming up to me and was like, "Hey, what do you think of my new partner that I'm dating right now? Like, their name is Shorts." Like, I'd be like, "Yeah, keep dating them. They are making you so much better." And I think that's a weird comparison, but I think between Cars on the Road, I Am Groot, and we had Visions, Star Wars Visions, and now this series. It's just, keep it up, Disney. If you're listening, please, more short. I'd love something like this in the Marvel universe. Like, I know we got What If, but like, give me something that is canon that does break down some of these little moments within it'd be so cool. Anyways, all that said, I am obviously blown away by this series. I'm going to watch it as soon as we end recording here. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 Lost Stories of the Force. Well, that is it. We hope you enjoyed the spoiler-free review for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the movies or shows we cover, well, I'm going to use the Force in a way that no one has ever seen before to send you over to Megan to let you know how you can reach us.
Whoa, that was stupid.
You felt it. I love it.
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if you feel the conflict rising inside of you, then you can find us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
That's fantastic. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, like our recent spoiler-filled discussion for Werewolf by Night, where Darcy, again, he went beast mode, dropping all sorts of dope details that you might have missed that I missed. And I was just like Megan just now. I was like, whoa.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you have to check it out. Well, listen, if you haven't seen Werewolf by Night just yet, like Megan, you can also check out our spoiler-free review for it out right now, along with our spoiler-free reviews for Andor, Amsterdam, Hocus Pocus 2. We got a ton of interviews on the podcast as well, on our YouTube channel as well. So definitely check those out. Interviews with folks from, if you like Star Wars, folks from Andor, the series. We got to speak with freaking Mon Mothma herself, Genevieve O'Reilly, along with a bunch of other talented cast members. So go check out those interviews both here and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We also had a chance to send Darcy and Kevin out to meet not our Kevin, but the Kevin Smith, and they got a chance to watch Clerks 3 and meet, I think, I think you both can say collectively one of your heroes, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And Darcy,
Easy
you
to
were
say
telling me that at the event he was just as high as you were, so that made it all worth the while.
Oh yeah, again, he is one of my weed smoking idols. So to see him still living it up like that, it's like, yep, good, I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
Fantastic. You're on the right path. I mean, dude, the guy's he's made so many movies. And if you're enjoying this discussion about Star Wars, we also have our Watch Club for Star Wars Andor out right now with our first 2 episodes covering the episodes 1 to 3 and 4 to 6 of that series. We go deep into that series, discussing all the incredible things that it's bringing to Star Wars. And once episode 9 of that series hits, we're going to have another episode out covering episodes 7, 8, and 9. And then, of course, we're going to do our 2-episode finale after that. So definitely check it out. Megan, have you been watching Andor? Have you been keeping up? Have you been blown away?
Oh, yeah. I will say, just as my own little point here, 1 through 3, I prefer over 4 through 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Hot take.
Is that a hot take?
Maybe. We'll have to see if we can get you onto one of those watch clubs at some point if you're available.
I'd love to.
Because I want to hear you explore that a little bit more. That was like the Tales of the Jedi version of that, and then we get to explore the why in a season 2. We also have our weekly This Week in Geek episodes out every Wednesday, where we break down our thoughts on the latest trailers and news surrounding all the things we love. Our most recent episode, it should be out by this moment in time. We had a bit of a scheduling snafu. It might be out tomorrow, but we get to hear Kevin and I think Darcy talk about their thoughts on the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer with Kang. He looks so fantastic. He's got big muscles. And lastly, Justin and Kevin got to witness the hierarchy of the city of Toronto change when they stood a stone's throw away from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So they've got a review out now for Black Adam, spoiler free, but they do talk about their experience at the Gold Carpet premiere event. So definitely go check out all those episodes and all that stuff, and we hope you enjoy it. Megan, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this review. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Bye.